Hey there, Groove Growth community. It's the Groove Growth guy back here with one of my dearest and oldest friends in all of the world and a brilliant online maven, huge in the world of personal development, personal growth. It is such a pleasure to have Natalie Ledwell, co-founder of Mind Movies, on with us. Nat, thank you so much for taking the time. I so appreciate you.
I appreciate you too, darling. And it is my absolute pleasure. I mean, we're talking about a subject that I absolutely love. So, I do like to have a chat. So,
yeah, exactly. And we're going to keep, so optimism and attitude, that's what we're focused on. And obviously, you being the law of attraction and every other thing queen, to pull that in, get out the limiting beliefs, get rid of those things. Where do you want to start? I mean, this is your world. That's why I called you.
Right. Well, I think I want to tell a little bit about my experience and my story, because I think a lot of people in the Groove community will really identify with it. Because, Mind Movies, we've been in business for 15 years. 15
Wow.
years. Can you believe that? I was adding it up the other day. I'm like, wow, that's a big chunk of my life.
Yep.
But, we saw the movie The Secret back in 2006 when it originally came out. This is my now ex-husband and I. We're back in Sydney in Australia, and we're watching this movie going, oh my God, like this is our missing piece. We have been serial entrepreneurs, which I'm sure a lot of people in this community are.
Yep.
At the time when we watched The Secret, we had 4 businesses we were running at the same time, but we were still struggling financially. And I'm like, this is insane. Like, what am I missing here? I'd been a student of personal development from the age of 21. I was listening to Brian Tracy cassettes in my little 72 Corolla, which is kind of showing my age. But but I was, I was in it. I knew how to think positively. I knew how to set the goals. And 4 businesses and still struggling. Like, what the? And then we watched the movie. I kind of realized, okay, what I didn't realize was that when I was supposed to visualize, I had to feel what it was like to already be in this future. And I didn't need to know the whole plan. I just needed to start the first few steps and create the momentum, and then everything I needed would fall into place. I didn't realize that until I watched that movie. And so, I sit down and I'm like writing out what I want from my life and what I want from my business. I want to be able to speak on stage, and I want to help thousands of people millions of people around the world. I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to work on the beach from my laptop if I want to. I want all of these things. Now, not long after I'd created this list, I had a friend approach Glenn and I with this idea of creating these little movies which were like vision boards. Like affirmations and photos and music. So it was like something that like a little slideshow that you could create and then have that as your vision board, which I thought was a brilliant idea. And so, then our friend said, look, why don't we set up a website and, we'll sell these instructions so people around the world can make these movies for themselves. Now, at the time, not only did we have no time because we had these 4 businesses, but Glenn couldn't turn on a computer. And I hadn't even heard of YouTube. I didn't know what that meant. Like, I didn't understand what a YouTube was. I didn't understand, what a Facebook was. I used a computer for bookkeeping, and I knew how to use Word. That was where we started. We started at that place.
Right. Nothing. Basically at ground zero, below zero.
Right. So what was interesting is that, our friends like, it's all right, I'll teach you. We're like, okay. So, and I'm like 39 at the time, or 38, and Glenn's like, around 40. So we're at this time in our life. We've decided that we're going to, really, start this idea. We put a little video up on YouTube, and we had that many people coming in and buying the instructions that we set up, which were just Camtasia videos back then. And we had all these emails coming in from people saying, this is changing my life. I'm like, guys, we need to figure this out. Like, how do we do this internet thing? What is this? And so we went on this, year's journey. We came over to the US. We attended a seminar, a Frank Kern seminar. We got accepted into his mastermind group, even though we couldn't afford it at the time. But I'm like, we have to do this. And it was like the game changer for us. We spent 6 months working 10 hours from our bedrooms in a little apartment down in San Diego. and ended up launching mind movies to the world in September 2008, when the economic crisis had hit the planet and everyone's losing their houses and their jobs and everything. We ended up doing like a $700,000 launch, selling this little $97 program. And so when I look back at that whole journey, and I kind of go, okay, well, what was the difference? This is the success that we always imagined for ourselves. But it wasn't until we started adding these other pieces, like understanding that our emotions are the frequency that we send out into this unified field that we all exist in. And as long as our emotions are at a higher frequency, so, emotions like, happiness, joy, gratitude, accomplishment, pride, courage, these kind of emotions, the longer that we can hang out there, then the easier it was for us to be able to manifest what we wanted. So as you can imagine, like Glenn and I with 4 businesses, action was not a problem for us.
Right.
Our motto is we bite off more than we can chew, then we just chew like hell. Like we just get in there and we do it, right?
But that's a pretty hard space. I mean, seriously, running 4 businesses at the same time, pretty hard to be focused on maintaining high levels of emotions because you've got so much stuff coming at you all day long, right?
Exactly. And we didn't. We were stressed all the time. We were overworked. We were overstressed. So it was difficult for us to get ourselves out of that. So it wasn't until we started, adding different practices into our day and into our life that it made all the difference for us. So yeah, we had the business experience, the business know-how, and we had the actions. We had no problem with that. But it wasn't until we added all these other practices that helped us to stay in that higher frequency that made the difference and gave us a quantum leap in our success. We knew it was going to crack it one day.
I mean, how did that work? Tell me, what did that feel like, or what did that look like for everybody? Because I mean, everybody that's watching and listening to this is saying, I want that. I want that quantum leap. Give us a little more color to that, please.
So there were a number of different things that we did. So, and I mentioned the launch back in 2008, and, I gave you the rainbows and puppy dogs version of that story. Like, believe me, everything that could go wrong went wrong, like everything. Our email delivery system shut down our account because they thought we were doing something illegal because we had so many opt-ins coming in. They closed down for maintenance the morning of the launch. PayPal froze our account with $500,000 in it. We nearly went bankrupt. There was a whole ton of stuff that went on. But what would keep us going, like, for example, if we were really stressed out, working and, and having to figure out all this technical stuff at the age of 40, that's a challenge, right? How to edit a video. I'm looking at this software going, I know how to use Word. I don't even know what I'm looking at here. So these kind of things we go through, we understood how important it was for us to maintain that higher frequency or those higher elevated emotions. So we'd leave the apartment, we'd get in the car, we go get a coffee, we'd go down to the dog beach in San Diego, an ocean beach. And we just sit there and just watching dogs frolicking around with big smiles on their face and running. It would just help us to get into a better state of mind, a better emotion and energy. It shifted our emotion. And then from that place, we would have these little conversations as if the launch was already done. And we were talking as if it had already been happened. So it's a present tense kind of conversation. And we're talking about, the restaurants that we're going to and where we're traveling in the world and where we're taking our families and, and all these different things as if it was happening now. Mm-hmm. So we were, we could shift our emotion. Then it was easier to go back because, number one, our emotion's different. Our frequency is different. And number two, we've just reminded ourselves why we're doing all this hard work. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We had a mind movie for that launch, talking about, the number of customers we have, the type of people that we're attracting into our, community, the respect of our peers, what life looked like at the end of it. And we would watch that every single day and transport ourselves out of the stress and everything that were happening at that moment into the future. So I'm going to get a little sciencey here at the moment, just to scientifically explain how that works. Because, through sciences like epigenetics, we have this whole new understanding of, how this all happens. Because, we understand the law of attraction is a concept. It's a universal law. but now we can scientifically explain why that works. So we understand that, when we're visualizing and we're seeing this future of ourselves, when we play that over in our mind, as if it's already happening now, then what happens is that our subconscious mind doesn't really understand the difference between, and doesn't realize it's not actually happening now. So part of, getting into this, frequency is, seeing ourselves already there, because that builds our belief and it builds our expectation. And what it also builds is new neural pathways in our brains. And these neural pathways, we've got all these thoughts that are traveling along these neural pathways. The strongest ones that we have are the ones of thoughts that we've been thinking for 20, 30, 40 years, however old we are, which are normally related to some kind of programming or some kind of influence when we were kids. And so if you go to, create a successful business, but you have these thoughts coming up in your mind, like, who do you think you are? Like, you don't deserve this. Like, you're never going to amount to anything. These are not our thoughts. These are our programs that have been, drilled into us, or that we adopted when we were much younger. And so whenever we want to do something positive, our subconscious mind goes, no, remember, you're not worthy. You don't deserve this, and starts throwing up all these thoughts. But if we can create this visual in our mind that really is not just us seeing ourselves as a character in a movie, but actually putting ourselves in a moment as if we're there. What are we feeling? What are we tasting? What are we touching? What are we smelling? What are we emotionally feeling in that moment? Because that is what makes us a big beacon for everything that we need. Because what we've realized is that everything's made up of energy. It's all resonating at different frequencies. And the frequency that we send out is our emotions. So when we can feel what it's like to already be there, and we can hang out and marinate there for a length of time, then we become this vibrational match to everything we need to make it happen. And that's what creates that, that quantum leap. And of course, those thoughts and emotions are positively influencing our actions without us having to put any effort into it.
Yeah, say more about that. That's because that's always, you think back to some of the great philosophers that say things like, our philosophy determines our thoughts determine our actions determine our results. But you're taking this further than that. You're saying even without us needing to do something, there is results that are coming naturally because of the new neural pathways and so on. Could you break that down a little bit more? Because I think we might have lost a couple of people there for a second.
Yeah. Okay. So let me give you like a basic example of that. I still make mind movies for myself. I especially at the beginning of every year, I'll do specific ones. But at the moment, I have one about fitness, health. Okay. Now, one of the affirmations I have in that mind movie is, I love getting up in the morning and exercising first thing. Now, when I wrote that affirmation, I did not love getting up first thing in the morning and exercising. I was far from loving it. But because I had that as an affirmation, I had that as a thought. When I'm watching my mind movie, I actually see myself jumping out of bed and loving exercise. After a while, I actually did love getting up and exercising first thing in the morning, because I've already seen myself doing it. I already feel what it's like. And I'm like, how, accomplished I feel and how positive I feel about actually getting up and doing something positive for myself in the morning. And then after a while, I just did it anyway. And I actually felt that way because I kept telling myself that that's what I wanted to do. Like, for example, if there's things like in your business, you're building your online business, and maybe you need to reach out to some JV partners, and that's a little challenging for you. Maybe you're shy, or maybe you're like, I don't know whether I'm just starting out. Like, who should I reach out to? And so you kind of procrastinate or put that off a little bit. But if you have something like an affirmation, or you see yourself, reaching out to these JV partners and having this, really positive exchange, and how you're kind of helping each other, then after a while, you don't feel that resistance to make those calls or send those emails, because you've already seen it happen, and you've already seen the positive outcomes as a result of taking that action.
It sounds a little bit, and I wonder how you answer this question, is that I'm putting myself into the shoes of the people watching. It sounds a little bit like you're trying to trick yourself.
At the beginning, you are. I'm going to be honest. At the beginning, it's like a fake it till you make it kind of situation.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, you can't go from, like a lower frequency emotions, like, feeling frustrated or impatient or helpless or, these kind of emotions. You can't go from that straight to joy. You actually go in increments.
Mm-hmm.
You want to, gradually get yourself, up the emotional scale. David Hawkins wrote a book back in the 80s called Power versus Force. And he was actually able to measure the frequency of each of the emotions. And so if you have a look at that scale, you go, look, I'm going to go from, frustration or impatience, and then I'm going to go up to courage. And then from courage, I can probably go up to pride or accomplishment. And then from there, I can probably go to gratitude. And from there, I could probably go to joy. So you're looking at how that you get up the ladder. Don't expect to go from, okay, I don't even know what I'm doing here and my business is failing, to, I'm going to be a massive success. There are steps along the way that you want to be able to meet.
That sounds a little bit like, I think the fabulous day, January 19th, is called, and I don't buy into this at all, but it's called Quitters Day, World Quitters Day, because they've scientifically done a bunch of studies that say that your New Year's resolution end mostly on the 19th of January, that 800 million people quit on their thing, whatever they do. And one of the reasons is oftentimes because people set these ridiculous goals after not having accomplished much at all. They want to set this ridiculously high thing, and therefore the gap is so big that it's hard to bridge that. How do you sound similar to what you just said in terms of you can't go from way down here all the way to joy in one quantum big leap? How do you coach people along the spectrum? What can people expect to encounter as they go along that step ladder, up the steps kind of journey?
Yeah. So I always recommend that when anyone's, writing an intention statement, creating a vision board, describing their future, before you even start there, you do need to be in a higher frequency. I always I recommend people get into a place of gratitude. Okay. So, and when you're creating those things, you want to describe the best, most amazing version of that. So if you're describing your business, for example, I would say, look, I have an outrageously successful business. I reach millions of people around the world. I'm helping them to do whatever your service is or what your message is. I'm only working 6 hours a day and I'm traveling. Like, you want to describe where you want to end up. Okay. So you do need to have that vision. But then, of course, there's all the stepping stones that you take to get there. And so, for me, it's like, okay, what's my next step? What's the first step I'm going to do to get there? Because sometimes, especially when we're, financially challenged, or we're in a place where we're starting out, you go, look, I'd really just like to make like $2,000 a month from my business. That would be great. Now that's a small goal. But the thing is, when you have your eye on the prize and when you're doing your visualizations, you can see the big picture where you want to end up and to go to, you're going to blast past the $2,000 a month. That's not even you're going to be like, oh, that was quick, and then they're going to keep moving forward because you've got to have that bigger thing. But you break it down into smaller increments. Now, when you create that bigger vision, sometimes those bigger visions take time. They could take years. I mean, who knows how long that's going to take. So how do you keep your vibration high? How do you stay in a positive mindset? How do you do that on the way to that? Well,
that's what we all want to know. That's what we're like, okay, how do we do this?
Let me tell you.
Okay, cool. Please.
So first of all, you have to have a gratitude practice. If you don't have a gratitude practice, you are not operating at your most optimal level. So whether that's writing 5 things every day, 5 new things every day in a gratitude journal, setting an alarm so you be grateful in the moment, whether it's an activity that you do every day that's your anchor that you drop into your gratefuls, whatever that is. But while you're, especially if you have a gratitude journal, which I highly recommend, What I also recommend is when you're doing your, debrief in your mind at the end of the day, that you're also acknowledging everything that went right. All of the things that worked in your favor that's helping to move you closer. You've got to acknowledge those things.
And do you recommend, like, we've been friends for a very long time, and you know that I'm a Buddhist, and so I chant every day. And when I'm chanting in the evening, I generally do that. Would you recommend doing that as part of whatever your spiritual practice is? If you're doing meditation, or if you're doing quiet time or prayer, or would you recommend at that point doing that gratitude exercise and talking about what went right?
I call them evidence events, because to me, when I notice all the things that went right, or some kind of serendipitous event or person or email or opportunity popped up, to me, it means that I'm totally in alignment, emotions, thoughts, actions, in what it is that I want to create. It's recognized by the universal, the divine, or what do you want to call that, or God. And so when these things come into my reality, I need to acknowledge them. I've been working on a kids program, a curriculum for schools for a number of years now. And believe me, I've had moments where I'm like, this is too hard. Like, what am I doing here? But then I sit down and I acknowledge all of the incredible people and meetings and opportunities that have fallen into place that are propelling me forward with this project. It's like, I can't walk away from this. Like, this is happening. Like, that evidence event is proof to me that I'm exactly where I'm meant to be.
So that's the since we're in optimism and attitude moment, that's the attitude of gratitude that we want to kind of adopt. Now, do you find that, because to me, I think of gratitude and I think to myself, wow, that's like a precursor and putting yourself on the way toward that path of joy. If we find things that we're constantly grateful for, it's like, wow, there's all these things that I could be focused on. I think I'll focus on this one that I really appreciate. I had to film this morning and it's super overcast and rainy. And I woke up and I was like, yes, overcast, steady light. We love that, kind of a feeling, as opposed to, oh no, it looks terrible outside. It's so easy to be in either one of those, confronting the exact same set of circumstances.
Yeah. I mean, we always have a choice, whether we realize it or not, on how we choose to respond or react at any moment. But you're right. It's like, it's a mindset shift. But the thing is, the more that we're looking for everything that went right, and the more that we're acknowledging all these amazing things that are falling into place to help us make it happen, then that begins to be all that we see. When we're struggling and we're, in debt and we're looking at the challenges, I don't know if you've noticed this, but then all you see is the challenge, and all we're attracting is more that's adding to the challenge, rather than shifting just a little bit and going, oh, well, this has happened and I learned this lesson, and, this is going to help me propel me forward in this. And, if I look back at every business that Glenn and I had, there is some kind of life experience, business lesson, human experience that we've got from every single one of those businesses that prepared us that when this opportunity of mind movies came along, not only did we recognize it for the opportunity that it was, but we were ready for it. Even though we knew nothing about the internet, everything else that we had, everything, like all that experience and all that knowledge we brought to this opportunity. And here we are 15 years later, we've reached 10 million people around the world. Like, it's, massive success.
And tell me, so, I know we don't want to discuss too much of this, but this pandemic has been kind of crazy. What would you say to people that there's a lot of strain, there's a lot of stress, abnormal things? People are not used to having their worlds turned upside down. What would you say to those people who are still not quite pulled themselves out of that feeling of, and they even have a bit of hopelessness going on, like, when is this going to end? And we don't know.
Yeah. We don't have control over things like a pandemic. There are events that show up in our life that show up. We have no control over that. But what we do have control over is how we choose to see the event, how we choose to respond to it, and how long we allow it to affect us moving forward. We have control over that. So the whole of humanity is going through a united experience right now of this pandemic. But not everyone's experience of the pandemic is the same. And like we were saying before, when you can shift from all the things that are going bad and why this pandemic is awful and you know, everything that's awful about it, and shift to, well, what are some of the good things that are coming out of it? You know, and look, I'm not discounting at all, but I have so many friends who've lost parents, like lost family members. As I was mentioning before, I'm working, you know, with schools at the moment, and the mental health of our children is you know, they're self-harming and suicide rates are up, and like there are some awful things that are happening. And I'm not discounting any of that, and I'm not being a Pollyanna and going, I don't see it, because I'm there, like I'm in the middle of it, I'm in the trenches. But I can't keep focusing on that, and I can't keep like putting the words to it and making it more of my reality. I acknowledge it, but then when I'm, you know, working and when I'm moving forward, I'm like, okay, what are the good things that are happening?
Yeah.
A lot of people who are building online businesses, you think about it, humanity's behavior has changed. We are all online way more than we ever have been before. A lot of people are reassessing their lives. Again, was I really happy there? Actually, no. So what do I want to do instead? So whatever product you have, whatever message you have, you know, online is the medium in which to be able to get that out there right now. And there's been no better time than now to do it. So we can look at that, or we can go, the world's going to hell in a handbasket. Yeah, okay, that is happening. But, you know, my reality and my experience of what's happening, I get to have control over.
Yeah, you know, you said something, and I'd love to take this a tiny bit deeper. And that is, one of the things that the pandemic has done is it has demonstrated how interconnected we all are across this entire planet. And in one way, there's been some divisiveness that has happened as a result of it, polarization and what have you. But those of us who are a little bit more aware have to take a look at the whole thing and say, wait, if there's anything that demonstrates interconnectedness of all people, it's this thing that affected the entire world. And therefore, isn't that also just an energetic field of some kind? Yeah,
absolutely. You know, a perfect example of this is, you know, and I don't want to go too far into this, but wearing a mask, for example. There's been a lot of polarity about masks and vaccinations and COVID and everything, right? Now, I can hear all the noise out there. I'm not joining in that conversation. I'm not, you know, either way, it's like I respect whatever, like I know that everyone's getting different information. I understand that they are making a decision that is in their best interest, and I get it. And whether you fall on either side, I don't have an opinion on it. But when I'm choosing my experience of it, like I choose to wear a mask out of kindness, like out of respect. You know, I live in a building where there's a lot of older people. They get in an elevator with someone without a mask, and instantly their cortisol levels are up. Instantly they're stressed. Instantly they're, you know, I don't want to create that for another human being. So I choose to wear a mask. Now, I'm not buying into it, like whatever anyone else has, you know, thinks about that, that's your choice and good for you. Because I know that you're making a choice that's in the best interest for you. But this is, so every time I put on a mask, I'm getting a little hit of positive energy, because I know that I'm doing it from a place of compassion. So these are the kind of things that we get to choose, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I find that I do the same thing because of respect. So yours is kindness. Mine, for that same reason, is respect. I respect that there are other people who would feel a lot more comfortable if they're walking around with people who are masked. Even in Florida, where it's about the most liberal, do whatever the heck you want anywhere across the country. Okay, cool. Thank you so much for that. Now, getting back to starting out. So where does somebody start? Okay, I'm listening. I'm loving what I'm hearing from Natalie. And I'm going, okay, yeah, I want some of the Natalie energy. Where do how can I get my Natalie groove on?
Yeah. Okay. So what keeps our energy high is, number one, knowing where we're going to end up. Make sure you spend some time in here, that that you're already living those moments. So you already feel that, where you're ending, why you're going there. You understand the service that you're providing, the message that you have, how it's going to positively influence the people that you serve, the people that you love, and who you are. So you've got all of that. Then you're looking at this mountain of everything that needs to happen. Don't look at the mountain. You've got to just look at the next step. What's my next step? What's the first thing that I can do? Now, I know that when a lot of law of attraction teachers, they're like, you don't need to know how it's going to happen. You just need to, start taking action. You just need to know the end. Yes, that's true when you're starting out. But a how is eventually going to show up, and you are going to have to take, that direction. But the way that you get there is by deciding to go in a direction. Doesn't matter which direction it is, but you need to start some action. You need to start some momentum. The reason that you do that, because again, we're going back to, how do I become a vibrational match? How do I match the things that I need? How do I attract that? How do I leverage the power of the universe to help me achieve this? See, this is the difference. Like Glenn and I busted our butts with all these different businesses because we were just doing it all ourselves. It wasn't until we kind of surrendered and went, okay, we have the power of the universe here to be able to help us. So let us help it help us, right? By, taking the action, starting in a direction, especially when it comes to marketing. When we started out, we started doing JV relationships, like, affiliate marketing. It suited our personality. Glenn and I are very gregarious kind of people, and we love people and we love relationships, and we're, like to have lots of fun. So that suited us. But, if you're starting out, what is it that suits your personality? What is it that you feel good about doing? What is it, something that you're going to love doing? Start in that direction. Then as you do that and as you're building, then everything else is going to start to fall into place. You'll attract the people that you need to do the stuff that you don't want to do. You'll attract maybe a business partner or a JV partner or something that can help to build the business. But you have to be the person first. Be the person that these other people and these other opportunities are going to be attracted to. And
I remember Jim Rohn used to say all the time, don't worry about where you are now, but worry a great deal about who you are becoming. Can you be becoming that person that becomes attractive?
Absolutely.
Right. In other words, it's not something like, until I become that person, I don't get to be attractive to JVs, or I don't get to.
That's not what at all. It's like people with, I talk a lot about limiting beliefs and all the programs that, that are telling us that we're not worthy. But that's not an excuse. That's just I can't be wealthy because I come from a poor family, and, and then hands on hands, like, I'm not even going to bother trying. That it's not an excuse. It's just an explanation of why you're at this part of your journey. When you understand that, you release it, you keep moving forward. So, for me, it's all about, making sure that that you're on track, that you're taking action, you're acknowledging the wins, exactly where it is that you're heading and where you're moving to. But, part of this whole process, and I think what makes us live life a lot happier, less stressed, and in flow, is, the surrender piece, in understanding that even though this is my idea and this is the business how I see it, it may not show up that way when it finally comes to fruition. And it's probably never going to happen the way that I think it is, because anything worthwhile in my life that I've achieved did not happen the way, or show up the way that I thought it was. When I was mentioning, wrote all the affirmations about this life I wanted to create. We had a network marketing business, which was one of the businesses we had before. Now, I was convinced that was the business. No doubt in my mind, that was what was going to create the lifestyle we wanted. And if someone had told me that I was going to create the lifestyle through the internet back then, I would have laughed. I went, you kidding? I don't even know anything about the internet. But we met Ryan, our friend that gave us the idea, through that network marketing business.
hmm And
So,
that led you to this, and
yeah,
so on and so on.
right.
Yeah. You said that. Could you say that again? We're going to let it help us by us helping it. What did you say? That was really good.
Because, regardless of what your beliefs are, I mean, I know a lot of religious people, a lot of spiritual people, whatever that is, some people go, I pray to God or I pray to the universe that I want this to happen. I go, that's great. But how are you helping the universe? Like, the thing is, if you're not strong in your commitment and strong in your intention and clear about where it is that you're going and feeling what it's like to already be there and taking that action, if you're not showing up in any of those areas, then God or the universe is going, well, you probably don't really mean it.
Yeah.
Because if you meant it, you'd be, leaning in and you'd be doing the work. And so it's not like we can go, okay, I just want it to all fall in my lap. I mean, you could have the best visualizations in the world, but unless you actually got your butt off the couch, then, nothing's going to happen. We have to be able to be in a place where, because, God is going to give us everything that we need to make it happen. But we just have to be out there so that we're meeting the people, that we're getting the opportunities. Like, everything about us needs to be in alignment and in resonance with what it is that we're moving towards.
Yeah, I just love that. Thank you so much. And I know that you've actually put together something for those people who have resonated and really internalized all that you've shared with us today. You put together something for the Groove community. Tell us a little bit about that as we're wrapping up this conversation, which I have, as always, deeply enjoyed.
So I understand more than you know about how challenging it is when you're starting a new business, and especially when you're starting something online, because there are so many different components that you need to learn about, or that, and as you know, we went through all of that and had to learn it all ourselves. So I wanted to put something together that didn't require a lot of effort and time, but that had the biggest bang for your buck, something that was actually going to make a big difference. So we have a program at My Movies, which is called My Movies Matrix. Now, this particular program are My Movies that are already created for you. So you don't have to make the My Movie, they're already done. And so we have subjects like, creating wealth, creating love, creating, relationships, weight loss, those particular, areas. So we have part of the package is, you get 2 Matrix My Movies in each of those categories. The cool thing about these movies is that we've created technology that we've added to the movies that are going to help to change the frequency of your brain. Now, the reason that's important, because remember before I was talking about creating these neural pathways with these, thoughts that are in alignment with what it is that we want to create. So we have morning mind movies that you watch, Matrix movies that have got brainwave entrainment audio. Now, the brainwave entrainment sounds like a helicopter, a little buffeting sound. Well, what that sound does is it changes your brainwave state. So your brainwaves are now in theta. Now, when we're in theta, we are connected to the unified field and we are in suggestible mind, which means that if we're watching a mind movie while this sound is going, everything that's in that mind movie is going straight into our subconscious mind. And it's helping us to create these new neural pathways at a much faster rate. Then at night, it's the same mind movie, but a different audio. And this one's music, but underneath the music is hundreds of thousands of affirmations that only the subconscious mind can pick up. So what we're doing is we're reprogramming your brain. Like the most feedback we get about this program is within a couple of weeks, people are emailing going, look, haven't quite got my goal yet, but for the first time in my life, I believe I'm going to make it happen, because we've already changed those thoughts for them. Now, what's also included in the program is a sleep meditation, one that's got a guided meditation and one that's just, the sound, because we're making all these changes to, your brain frequency. Sometimes it's a little difficult to sleep. So we make sure that we've got the sleeping meditation that's included in there as well. So that helps you to have like a really good night's sleep, wake up feeling refreshed the next day. And we have some extra bonuses and things there as well. We have like I think about $1,000 worth of bonuses that we've added with that, like my subliminal success program. You get 12 months free of that, and our Mind Mastery World Summit. You also get access to that. Now, if you go to our website, the cost of My Movies Matrix is $297, which is our regular price. But because we're such good friends with you and such good friends with Mike, we want to do something special for the Groove community. And so we've actually taken 50% off that price.
Wow. Thank you.
So if you go to mymovies.com/groove, you'll be able to get access to all of that for just $149.
Or just click on the button right below this video. Make it easy on yourself. we set that all up for you. So yeah, either way. And Natalie, thank you so much. That's so generous of you guys. I know. And because I'm sure there's a lot of people that think to themselves, wow, I'm not very good technically. I don't know if I can put together a movie. I don't know and here you don't have to do any of that. You just go pick. I want wealth building and weight loss, or I want relationships and love or something. And then boom, and then they're there for you. And you can reprogram your brain to achieve your goals and dreams moving forward.
Like I said, I know you guys have got enough on your plate. I get it. And even like doing an extra coaching program or something on top, takes a lot of time and effort to do that. So this is something that as soon as you purchase, you get instant access. You can access the movies through an app on your phone. You can download them to your computer so that you have them with you. You could be playing them in the background as you're working as well. So it's a very effortless way to be able to reprogram and build those new neural pathways so that you are programming yourself for success. So it's, it's one of my favorite programs that we have. And like I said, there's no effort up front. All you have to do is listen to it a couple of times a day.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you so much. Any final words for this crazy, wonderful, amazing world that we live in, especially in the Groove community? Any final words to our community Groovesters, Groove stars?
Yes. Like I said, where I started from, and the life that I get to live, I truly pinch myself. Like I said, we've reached like 10 million people around the world, and we've helped them to see a better life for themselves. I truly get to live a life that I feel so grateful and so like I'm fulfilling my purpose. And I'm so passionate about what I do. And I know that the only way that we could achieve this is by doing it through our online business. So I encourage you that if you're in a place where you're feeling a little frustrated, just remember where it is that you're heading to. Remember all the people that are going to benefit from your message and your product and what you have to give. And you will get to create a life beyond your wildest dreams. And that's what I want for you. And I know that it's possible.
And thank you so much. So click on the button below, check out what Mind Movies has put together for you. Really, really amazing stuff. Natalie, on behalf of the entire Groove Growth community, just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. Love you to death. So great we had a chance to connect. As always, it was as fabulous as you are.
Thank you so much, Really. Always a great honor and privilege to chat with you, darling.
Thank you. Thank you.